Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, J.D. Edwards Upgrade Planning, Integration Best Practices. My name is Glenn Johnson and I'm joined today by Ryan Beck, and we want to thank you for joining us today. We're going to try to get this slideshow on the road here. There we go. And thanks for joining us. We are going to be talking today about your J.D. Edwards upgrades to the 9s. Those of you who are in planning phases for that, this will cover the aspect of integration, the various interfaces and touch points that you have between J.D. Edwards and other systems that need to be considered and factored in as part of your upgrade. Also, we'll look at this from the standpoint of those of you who have recently upgraded and maybe you're trying to play a little catch-up on that game as well. So as we look at this topic today, we're doing so from the perspective of the company that I work for, Magic Software. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic. And Magic has two an integration platform and an application platform, two segments of our one-stack technology. The Magic XPI integration platform allows you to leverage metadata to very, in a straightforward manner, integrate between a variety of different applications, including J.D. Edwards and third-party software, Oracle Edge applications, websites, web services, and various sorts of technical level ways of integrating as well that allow you to leverage the various APIs and other areas that are in there. Magic also has the Magic XPA application platform, which is our mobile and desktop and web development and deployment platform so that you can create applications and expose them through multi-channel means of client interfaces across your organization. So Magic is very pleased to be presenting today's webinar, but the focus, of course, is very much on your J.D. Edwards integration piece as it relates to your upgrade. The Magic integration platform for J.D. Edwards is something that is being featured in the various workshops that are being offered by Oracle as they relate to upgrades. And this is quite interesting, I think, to many of you out there to see the Magic integration platform being featured in these seminars. This slide that you're seeing currently is actually the slide that's used by Oracle to introduce the Magic XPI integration platform to Oracle's customers that are on J.D. Edwards and considering their upgrades. The reason this is a part of that workshop is because the product management teams at Oracle have simply viewed this as an effective way to streamline the upgrade process for companies that have a number of interface points and touch points already in place or are considering the integration challenges as they relate to upgrading. And so the Magic integration platform for J.D. Edwards is one that connects J.D. Edwards to hundreds of different systems. The ones that you see illustrated here are just examples. There are many, many more, of course, to which you can connect. And it's done in a visual drag, drop, and configure approach that allows you to work in a code-free manner so that you're focusing on leveraging the capabilities of the integration platform itself rather than writing code that manually instructs the various systems on how to transform data and exchange and transport data between two different systems. It also has built-in monitoring capabilities so that you can build and monitor your integration with one tool set. And so with the Magic XPI integration platform, you're not only telling your interfaces how you want them to work, what the business rules should be, what the exceptions should be, but you're also able to see and log information from all of those integrations that are taking place. So that's quite powerful. So there are a number of customers that have integrated using Magic XPI and have found that when it came time to upgrade to version 9, it really just streamlined the process because you can preserve your integration flows when upgrading your J.D. Edwards versions. They don't go away. All you do is just take a few minutes to point your Magic XPI integration platform topology to the new location of your upgraded JD Edwards system, and all the integration to the JD Edwards business functions and the back-end systems continue to work as expected. Now, obviously, if you added a brand new module and you wanted to integrate something new, then that would be something new. But for those existing integrations, those business functions just keep working in the same way that they have in the past. That's in large part thanks to the architecture that Oracle has provided for integration, as well as the working of the Magic XPI integration platform to act as the translator and communicator between those various systems. So companies like Mizuno and Tim Whitlock, who's in the IT department there, have said that Mizuno's e-commerce integration kept running with near zero effort when we upgraded from 8.10 to 9.1. That's our Enterprise One customers. We also point to examples like Toto USA that is in the world's area and has upgraded to the 9s and experienced a similar, very smooth process because of the fact that the Magic XPI integration platform is using a service-oriented approach, an object-oriented approach, and one that does not require reprogramming when you upgrade your versions. There are a lot of challenges that face those who are considering integration, and so what we wanted to do is really look at what some of those challenges are and how they impact the upgrade process. First on the list is the geographic diversity of many organizations, in which you may have an operational structure that has various data centers. You may have network infrastructure and integration architecture that spans multiple locations and that serves even more locations than that. And these systems, therefore, take on some complexity when it comes to integration simply because of the physical configuration of the network architecture. Geographic diversity, to be sure, is something that causes us to, as IT professionals, to make sure that we're implementing the correct business rules related to the logic of how to deal with things such as lost communication between two sites and so forth. The second challenge that we look at is the challenge of multiple business units. This is really more to do with the diversification of the business, where you have various departmental requirements and that all rely on financial reporting, but you have many subsidiaries that have special operational challenges, special IT challenges, and those business units often must act or be considered together ultimately in terms of financial reporting. So this is an integration challenge that many of you, of course, are already familiar with, but that can be dynamic and changing and certainly affects your integration strategy. How do we integrate non-JD Edwards systems, for example, ERP systems or specialized operational systems that have, of course, accounting-related data, receivables data, and supply chain systems that may have payables-related information integrated to them, and those are integration touch points that we need to look at. So the number of business units and the diversification that results from that is certainly one of the other challenges that we look at. The third challenge comes simply from the interrelated nature of the business processes of these various systems. Perhaps we're stating the obvious, but when you think about the number of communication points from each of these systems to one another, if you were to do manual programming of those interfaces and try to manage that as a one-off program between each of those, when you upgrade something, you have multiple programs that need to be rewritten, re-architected, and reevaluated. And it's just a very burdensome approach. So upgrading is a perfect time to kind of get rid of the spaghetti code and find a way in which you can actually implement a systematic approach to integration through a platform that is designed to manage all of your integration touch points, and then when any one system changes out, it doesn't require reprogramming. So this very diverse application portfolio that many organizations and enterprises have is comprised of multiple specialized systems, and it requires an approach to orchestration and loosely connected architecture that will optimize your ability to deal with change now and going forward. The fourth challenge is simply the view from the user perspective, where they're really looking for a more simplified and unified interface. Complexity needs to be hidden from the user so that they can view and interact with a simplified and unified system. It's the old KISS method, keep it simple. When you have these challenges taking place, it may be coming from your mobile users, for example, who are on the go, need to move, and they want something like the Magic XPA application platform that can pull information from J.D. Edwards, from your CRM system, from supply chain systems, whatever it is, and just present just the critical information at this particular time. Let me interact with it, provide an approval or whatever it is, and then go about my business. I don't want to interact with the entire ERP system, while I'm on my mobile phone. That's not logical. It's not what people really want to do. Unfortunately, there's a lot of noise out there about, oh, isn't it wonderful? You can put the J.D. Edwards on a mobile phone. Well, I don't really want to put J.D. Edwards on a mobile phone. I want just the critical task that is going to take place while I'm out to dinner, while I'm in my car, whatever. Well, okay, I can't text while I'm in my car, but you get the idea. All right, so that's challenge number 4. Challenge number 5, transforming data into information is so key, because a lot of times without integration, there are data silos, and business intelligence just doesn't have the optimized view of information. Those tools don't have the optimized view of information that they need. And so with an integration platform, you can actually use it to help you to create a single point of reliable information and allow you to have staging tables and things of this nature that really allow you to see what's going on. So key decision makers and line of business workers need to be able to crystallize obviously the information, the data that's out there into something that they can act upon. And sometimes that's metadata. Sometimes there's a piece of information related to integration processes themselves that becomes a critical point in the business, and you want to be able to see how effectively are we pushing orders out that have been entered in a third-party system and that kind of thing. So that's a part of the view. So now let's talk about the upgrade process itself. Integration is part of the upgrade process. Obviously, as you've been evaluating your upgrade, you're looking at best practices in a wide variety of areas related to, the education and training, preparing management, all of these things that preparing your users and, the technical readiness of your systems, hardware requirements. I mean, all of those are part of what you're looking at. But right in the middle of all of that is this sort of, for some people, a scary issue of integration. And the good news is it just doesn't have to be as scary as it was in the past. With the Magic XPI integration platform, you can really just take some careful steps in your integration process to make sure that you integrate. So there's an evaluation process in which you do some business analysis. There's the actual integration steps that are required before you upgrade, and then there's the upgrade itself. Now, if you're already using the Magic XPI integration platform, then this is cake. It's like we said for Mizuno and for Toto and those others, it's a 5-minute process. If you're currently using other methods of integration, then what you want to do is clean that up now prior to your upgrade, so that when you do upgrade, it just keeps on working. You go live, and you spend that 5 minutes, and you're ready to go. So these are the 3 basic steps, and the people involved typically with this are going to be your Oracle partners, who are heavily involved in your delivery of the actual upgrade. Now, some of you may try and do it yourself, but generally speaking, that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is that Oracle partners are heavily involved in providing the expertise for these upgrades. And so we encourage you to work with your local partners in order to do that. For the integration technology, of course, Magic is the player here that we encourage you to work with, the Magic XPI integration platform. And then the technology of the upgrade itself, of course, is coming from Oracle through your partner or directly from Oracle. That's something that is probably a business relationship you already have in place. So through these three pieces, then, you can really start to take this best practice approach, and it heavily needs to rely on consulting through your partner and with your internal stakeholders. So in the evaluation phase, we see questions being asked like, first order questions. Why are we upgrading? What is the rationale or the reason for doing this? That will, knowing that and having a consensus on why this is taking place, will allow you to have more effective meetings with stakeholders so that you can do your current state analysis and then work to consult with internal and external resources from Oracle, with your Oracle partners and independent consultants about how you're going to go through this process. During the evaluation phase, you're gathering documentation, you're reviewing your security situation, you're running integrity reports, and so on. These are all important to that best practice towards evaluation. And of course, when you go through the Oracle workshop, a lot of this is discussed in more detail. Regarding the current state analysis, which is really something that I want to spend a little more time on, that you obviously don't want to overdo it. I think we've seen some situations where it's just the current state analysis gets too detailed, and you want to try to find that right level of detail. Obviously, you don't want to just gloss over things. Things have to work, and technical things have to work in a very detailed manner. But a current state analysis from the user perspective that goes too deep is simply going to be something that can't be readily communicated to those stakeholders, to those decision makers, and so forth, and so that becomes a problem. You want to take an approach which allows you to correspond your upgrade plan and strategy to the mission and strategies of the organization overall. So you need to think first about purpose and context. These are essential to measurement. If you don't know, why you're doing it, where you're going, then it's difficult to measure the success of that. You want to create a repeatable framework, and current state analysis should correspond to that framework. So we'll talk about that. And then, of course, in doing this, you want to be strategic and avoid the analysis paralysis. Think big picture, and then manage the details to accomplish those big picture objectives. So the first key that we would offer is that your inventory of business architecture, your application architecture, your information architecture, and your technology architecture needs to correspond to the mission and strategies in order for your measurements to be meaningful. So as you're doing that current state analysis, you're taking inventory of the business architecture, the application architecture, the information architecture, and the technology architecture. There's 4 dimensions of that. Then just keep in mind, why. Why are we doing this? What's the mission strategies? And then you'll find effective means for measurement in doing that. This is an iterative process. As you're doing the identification of future state, the mission of the organization, correlating that to current IT assets, doing a deep analysis of your most critical IT assets, and then refining that future state based on that analysis, doing a gap analysis and an execution plan, it comes full circle, and it becomes an iterative process where you're improving upon where you're at. So focus on assets from the highest priority to the lowest priority. These can change, so it's not set in stone, but it is important to prioritize, and then just keep iterating that cycle as needed to keep focused on changing priorities. So you might think of those priorities in terms of assets in terms of 3 tiers. Your core IT assets that are really critical to the mission and goals and objectives of the company. The second tier would be more differentiating assets, where They're important to the organization, but they may not be the key strategic element of your IT infrastructure that differentiates the company. And therefore, these need to be understood. They need to be optimized, but they're not the most critical. So this would be more of a tier 2 as you're going through these layers of analysis. And then the tier 3 is more operational or commoditized IT assets that are important but not strategic. They're necessary, basically. So if you can break these tiers into manageable numbers of systems, the IEEE suggestion is that you try to keep it to less than 10 per tier. Some organizations, that's just not possible because you just have way too many systems, obviously. But that's the best practice suggestion. Now, here on the slide, you see reference to much more in-depth kind of best practice guidelines and documentation that you can get for your architecture descriptions. And so that would be at ISO-architecture.org, and it's /IEEE-1471. So that's the specific document that we would recommend there for you to look at in terms of putting together your architecture description as part of your upgrade process and analysis. Stakeholders are being interviewed, you're talking to them, you're finding out what's important to them, and so often we've seen where we've gathered all that information, we put it into a document, and then when it's being reviewed and people ask, well, who said that? And too often the analysts haven't kept a good track of that, or there's a kind of a laborious process going back and trying to find that. So what we recommend is something that looks kind of like a spreadsheet, which basically allows you to identify the stakeholder concerns and then the stakeholders who have those concerns and kind of put them on a scale of 1 to 5 or whatever it might be that allows you to sort of identify those for whom this is a most important and perhaps a less important concern, so that when the question comes up, well, why are we doing it this way? Why did we make this decision? Why are you recommending this? You can go back to this table, this spreadsheet, and basically very quickly, identify, well, these are the department heads or these are the key users who said that this was really important to them and their work. And then you can, obviously go into the notes and find the reasons why, but the table is a quick way of kind of identifying where these concerns came from. And we found that that's a really valuable document to just have ready for when those questions come up, and also just to remind yourself, because there may be technical reasons why you kind of tend to resist one of these ideas and you go, oh wait, yeah, this was really important, here's the reason why. So that's been useful. Now, the stakeholders that you need to consider, of course, are everybody from the users and the operators to the people who are buying the system, the owners of the system, the people who are supplying it, the developers, the builders, and the maintainers. So think of stakeholders in multiple dimensions because it all relates to this. And so correlating those concerns to stakeholders will really help you to come up with an architecture description which is more effective. It should identify those stakeholders, their concerns, and address the architecture viewpoint that will in turn govern the architectural view that you're using in your organization. Now, let's talk about the second phase in the integration process. What are some of the best practices that we see here? Well, first of all, you need to use integration architecture that spans versions of J.D. Edwards and other systems. This is really key to having an approach that is going to be survivable over time. This means you need to look at the use of flexible middleware, which is loosely coupled. It's not tightly programmed, but rather is utilizing business functions. It's utilizing the other approaches to integration from third parties that are standardized and optimized for loose coupling. You don't want to have programming or coding involved, hard coding involved in your integration. You want to integrate the current state now so that as you upgrade, the future state will just keep right on working as we've described. You want to evaluate process improvements while you're integrating. Sometimes there's so much focus during the upgrade process and the integrations of just getting it across and getting it to work as it does now. You might want to use this time to say, could we do it better? You know, is there a smoother process? Could this be better integrated? Could this add value to the overall business process, reduce time and delays, and so forth? And then you want to be very specific about integration in the upgrade plan and include exactly what you're planning to do as part of that approach. Integration best practices require us to look at the type of integration patterns that we're dealing with. Are we talking about data integration, functional integration, process integration, or presentation layer, user layer integration? All of these patterns may be relevant to what we're doing. It's suggested that we need to think of this in terms of balancing forces, that there are machine boundaries that are important. The idea that you can take a J.D. Edwards business function interface and it extend it across machine boundaries to create location transparency is flawed. The business function makes it possible, but it doesn't communicate in the same language as, we'll say, a third-party CRM system that's utilizing web services. Business functions and web services do not talk to one another. They require intermediation, and that is the Magic XPI integration platform that's doing all of that brokering of communications between these two different ways of standardizing interfaces. And that's good. That's the way it should be. But it's a fallacy you'd be surprised how many people think, well, I have business functions, I don't need integration architecture. No, the business function is just the open door. You need a hallway that goes between the two systems. So coupling affects interoperability. Integrating at the logical business layer involves sharing of functionality. And that sharing of functionality implies some level of coupling between the consumer and the provider of the functionality. So there's synchronous temporal coupling that needs to take place, dependency coupling, loose coupling. These are all options and approaches, but loose coupling is definitely preferred. So you know, this is the way that you're going. And so the coupling in the interface definition language, for example, the interface definition language of J.D. Edwards is in Enterprise 1 is the business functions, the BSFN. But the third-party systems don't speak BSFN. They don't know how to communicate with that. So you need the message-oriented middleware, the coupling to take place, some kind of platform that sits in between, and that's where the Magic XPI integration platform is coming into play. Some question about synchronous versus asynchronous. We really see this as being almost interesting, you know, that a lot of asynchronous processes can be coupled together to create, you know, what appears to be a synchronous or real-time interaction, but quite often it's pieces of that. Data integration is something that you need to look at. You know, how, what is the latency? What is the granularity of the information? What are the master-subordinate relationships? You know, this means that realistically sometimes it's necessary to have a shared database, maintain data copies, and so forth. And then these data integration approaches are to be considered. But the key here, and this is something that Oracle product managers have made very clear, is that you need to avoid direct SQL integration. Database-to-database integration is not recommended. It's basically not supported. So that's why you should be using, you know, Oracle-validated integration approaches like those from that are included in the Magic XPI integration platform in order to integrate the correct way. There are problems with direct SQL integration. You have unpublished schemas, bypass business logic. There's no encapsulation. The semantics can be simplistic. There's different storage paradigms. You have semantic dissonance. I think that most of us understand intuitively why direct SQL integration is a problem, and yet you'd be surprised how many people do it in desperation. You don't need that to be desperate. There are ways to do it properly and according to best practice. So when it comes to upgrade, I think most of you have a sense of, you know, your whole upgrade approach. Just a few things that we might A suggestion here would be to defrag and reorder your database, archive and remove unneeded data and documents. You could look at a tool like ArcTools, for example, to help with that. Train your technical staff in new versions. Obviously, training and preparing people is going to be important. You need to have your go-live checklists in place. Use tools like Safety Checker and Visual Compare in preparing for your upgrade, and use those experienced consultants that are local in your area who can work with you or who have the ability to provide you with excellent upgrades. So tip number 4 is to include an integration architecture tune-up in your upgrade plan. Smooth integration is essential to user acceptance of your new version. If the information isn't there because it's not integrated, then user acceptance and feedback is going to be negatively affected. If you look at Oracle's documentation of the upgrade project lifecycle, working with interfaces, the integrations, the customizations is definitely a part of the process. They talk about the use of developers who work with the custom modifications if necessary, working with the integration and so forth. So as we look at this, the additional steps that need to be a part of that upgrade process: prepare the organization, ensure the quality of your data, minimize application data by archiving and purging, defrag and reorganize, run integrity reports as we suggested. These could be things like the company's imbalance integrity report, the DBA integrity report, the item ledger account integrity report, and so on. Implement the most current tools release and patches, leverage existing test scripts and plans, test with a copy of the production database, not the actual production database. Obviously, turn off database triggers while you're doing this, and then perform index management. So those are some additional tips there. So a word about Magic XPI before I hand it over to Ryan, who's going to do the demonstration. The Magic XPI integration platform has pre-built adapters and resources that allow you to create integration without doing line-by-line coding. It uses a visual integration design studio, and it extends JD Edwards so that you can interface to all sorts of other systems, and it simplifies the development and maintenance of this integration to third-party applications. It's a visual approach, as we've suggested, with straightforward selections that Ryan will show you that allow you to streamline the complexity, and it's very reusable, scalable, and easy to use. With Magic XPI Integration Platform 4.0, scalability has been brought to a new level with the use of in-memory data grid architecture. We'll be talking more in depth in other Magic webinars about that, and ease of use, of course, remains very, very important. So that's done through things like data mapping, which Ryan is going to show us, the ability to monitor. And the good news about integration is that integration migrates at the topology level. So you simply point to the new system and your integration, the upgraded system, and your integration keeps working. So the key Magic XPI differentiators for JD Edwards are that we have Oracle validated integration, we have Enterprise One and World adapters, we take a real-time and event-driven architecture approach so that you can run both synchronous and asynchronous processes. We provide enterprise-class scalability. There's no Java programming required at any time, and there's no need to buy multiple middleware products. You just implement the Magic XPI integration platform, and you're ready to go. So the differentiators from an enterprise standpoint are that this adapter library in Magic XPI has all of those technology adapters for one low cost. It allows you to take this visual approach. Debugging is straightforward. It allows you to see variables and results step by step. Monitoring is fully configurable. And you have a unified technology stack based on open standards. We mentioned Mizuno as one of our example customers. They'd be happy to talk to you about their implementation of JD Edwards Enterprise One and their integration to Shopatron and other environments. Toto, so plumbing products manufacturer, they'd be happy to talk to you about their Salesforce.com and EDI integrations, and they migrated from JD Edwards World 7.3 to World 9 in the 9, so they're upgraded as well. We're proud members of the JD Edwards Alliance. which is composed of Insight software, DocuSphere, Magic, Velocity, RFSmart, ArcTools, and QSoftware, are all bringing solutions in these important areas. So we're very committed members of the Quest users group as well for many, many years. So at this point, what we want to do is I'm going to pass the ball over to Ryan and try to make him the presenter right here. And now, Ryan, you should have control. Great. And be able to share your desktop.
All right, I'll do that. So what I'm going to do today is show a live demonstration of how we can use Magic XPI to integrate JD Edwards and do it in a way that's reusable. So if you do upgrade, we're not going to lock you out and have to go back and redo the whole integration again, right? So the idea is to basically, like Glenn said, do a loose coupled integration where you're going to be not really tied down to what version of JDE you're integrating with. For instance, whether it's like version 8, version 8.12, 9, 9.1, etc. So we'll do it in a way that's actually using the correct APIs, so that if something changes, like the version or something like that, all of that will sort of be transparent to your upgrade. It won't be a piece that you'll need to worry about. There'll be tons of other things to worry about, so why worry about the integration, right? So as an example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new business partner into JD Edwards. And actually, if I said I wanted to add, I don't know, some cool new customer, we can go see if they exist in JD already, and I'll hit find, and they don't. It's looking for it, and yep, it didn't find anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in, but instead of actually typing it into JDE and boring you, what I'll do is I'm going to switch to another application and bring it in. So I'll go to the Customer tab. And the Customer tab, actually, in this case, will be my SharePoint site, which is an outside site. It's basically, it's obviously a website run by Microsoft SharePoint that's basically a way of working with lists and libraries and things like that. A lot of different companies are using it, so it's very common. And if I go ahead and add a new customer to here, and I'll add a cool new customer, what will happen is when I go ahead and put this information into this side, when I go back and save it, it's going to go across the Magic XPI engine to JDE. So Magic XPI is sitting between these two. It's orchestrating the integration on both sides, watching for events on both sides. And whenever that event happens, it's going to run what we call an integration flow, which will go and talk to whatever other application is part of that flow. So when I edit SharePoint or add something to SharePoint, it's going to launch a flow, go call JDE, and add that business partner there. We're also going to go ahead and get we're going to get a return response, hopefully. It will tell us that what happened was successful. So that way we'll know that this made it to the other side. What I'm actually going to get back is going to be the JD address book number, which is going to be the next available number in JDE. So as I click New here, or as I click OK, we have a new record created. Where I'm circling with my mouse over here on the right is the JD address book number. After a couple seconds, I'll hit the refresh button, and you'll see a new number pop in. That's basically Magic XPI coming back and editing this and adding the record in. If I go back into it, you'll see at the bottom I have a 74667, and you'll see that actually you'll see that the record was modified by a different user as soon as I created it down here at the bottom. So if I come back to JDE and I do a find again, we'll have our customer, and he's in here. Now this was done using not using direct SQL, not using ztables. It's actually done using the what's called the dynamic the XML interop, and we do that using the dynamic Java connector. That basically allows us to send an XML file to JDE that says here's this customer or this order or a PO or something like whatever document you want to use, and as an XML format, and it then basically goes and runs a business function that will go ahead and add it. So this business partner here exists in multiple different tables. It exists in, say, addresses. He's addressed in the main who's who. He's in the phone numbers. A couple other tables as well. So he's all over the place. But I didn't need to know that. I just needed to call the business function with a couple parameters that say, here's his name and address and phone number. And it all gets basically created in real time right in the database. It is a synchronous call, so I did get a response back immediately as soon as it was done with the address book number. So I knew that I knew that it would come back and work. If something failed, like maybe the business function didn't validate it, or maybe we even did our own validation in Magic, I could bring back, say, an integration error and update it here and make it available so we can see what the problem was. Now, how did this all work? Well, basically, behind the scenes, there was, as I said, an engine on Magic XPI running that connects the two sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch from the client here, and I'm going to switch to the server and go ahead and show you what was going on the Magic XPI server. So I'm going to switch over to that one. It's actually our brand new demo server. It's running Magic XPI version 4, which is our newest iteration, and it's the one that now supports what's called big data or gigaspaces. It's got basically the gigaspaces layer behind the scenes, which gives us a lot of robustness and a lot of messaging capabilities that are in the new version. And I was able to import our project from version 3.4 and run it no problem. And basically what it's doing is it's got a visual design environment here where I designed the flow that just ran. So you'll see all these little icons on the right of my screen and over on the left as well. On the right is what we call an integration flow that tells the server what to do. It's metadata driven, so I create the metadata here by making these little components that are the icons connect to each other and talk to the data. So if I drag this little JD Edwards component over here and drop it on the flow, I'm now working with a JD Edwards component. So if it went down this path, it would hit that and run it. Now I need to tell it what to do, so there's a little bit of configuration. So I'll right-click and go into a wizard-driven configuration, and we're going to ask me, hey, what business function do you want to work with? So I have a couple different ways. I can search for them, or I can just hit this little button and browse for them, and say I want to go work with something in, say, the core modules, and you get that. And then maybe I want to go work with user validation or something like that, or get audit info is a common one. And what it allows me to do is just select it and go and get, it's going to go out and discover the schema of this business function. Now the business function could have been a custom one. It could have been a one that came stock with the system. It's going to go in and discover these, so it basically will sort of form to your system. If you have certain business functions installed, it goes out, it sees them, and it allows you to go ahead and leverage them. What it's doing right now is it's actually logging into JDE. So it'll just take a second to do that. And it's going to go ahead and get the parameters that this business function I just selected requires, so that we can we can call it and map it in. So I have it now up in what's called a data mapper. So here I can see it's going to require, if I want to call it, it requires a username, a date, a time, things like that. And I could map it from the other side, which would be like anything such as a database, a flat file, an XML, which could come from any other component, variables, our own internal ODS and UDS. So you could basically define your file and then map it over into this function. Or you can use static values as well. There's a lot of different things you can do. So I'm going to go back and show you a configured one and show you what it looks like when you map. This is the component that just ran a couple minutes ago when we did the demo. It's mapping from SharePoint to E1. So if I go ahead and map from, say, work country over here to address line 4, for instance, it'll draw a line across and paint it maroon so I can kind of see how it's going. And basically what that means is I now created a mapping relationship between those fields with the source on the left and the destination on the right. So as the data moves across from source to destination, it follows these mappings, and this defines basically how the two sides are related. These are really simple mappings where I could say just map phone to there, really straightforward. But you can also do more complex calculations. So say if I wanted the mailing name to be, I don't know, if I want to bring the zip and the email and, I don't know, the title into one field, I can now bring all those 3 fields over. And I can do simple things like concatenate them, sure, but I can also go ahead and do more complex, say, arithmetic or string manipulation or things like that that are very common in integration when you need to transform data. So here's a rich list of functions that we have available that allow you to work with transforming your data as it comes across. Say if you need to go do a lookup or something like that, you can do that. And or try to just simply say trim your data or add it together, or say if this situation happens, you have your Boolean conditions and case statements and things like that that allow you to transform it. And when you do, you'll get this little FX here on the screen, which means that as the data comes across from one side to the other, it's going to be transformed on the fly. So so while it is very visual and code-free, it doesn't sacrifice the ability to do data transformations and complex things with it. So it actually is a very quick environment to develop in because of that. So you're working code-free. You're basically connecting things at a very high level, and you're not having to worry about, say, how does this component connect to, say, another site like SharePoint or something like that. So the architecture here is that we use these components as our connector into these other systems to connect. And a lot of that connectivity is built into that. I don't need to worry about how to make an XML file to call a JDE. I just need to know how to map some data into it. And that means that whenever, say, you, like we said earlier, if you upgrade to a different version, all you really need to do is update some configuration, such as what server you want to connect to, what environment, where the database is, things like that that are that you would know. You don't have to do a lot of research to, say, change your project to work with the new version of JDE. The business functions will keep working right in the new version. So it's very flexible and basically hides a lot of the complexity behind the scenes in the components. So that's our problem to work with, not yours, in a way. You can have lots of different flows in your project. So as you notice, I also have one over here going to Salesforce and JDE simultaneously with the one that's going to SharePoint and JDE. That means that it's basically a multi-threaded environment where everything's going all at once in using multiple what we call worker threads, which means that they're not going to slow each other down doing synchronizations in both directions. It's pretty cool that you can see lots of different things running at once, and none of them even interfering with the other ones. Now we can see that we can actually see what's going on the server in the background by using what we call the Magic XPI monitor that would go in and be able to see what's going on a running server. Because the server is a Windows process. It's kind of transparent. If you open Task Manager, you can see it running, but you kind of want to know what it's doing. So if I switch screens one more time back to where I actually have the monitor running, I'm going to go ahead and show you. This is what the monitor view looks like, and this allows me to see which projects are running. So I can see there's one running with that name. I can see there's another Agile Point demo running. I can go into each one and see how many threads it's using now, how many threads it's used in the past, how many it's allowed to use, how many provision to it, and also see if it's just on or off. So you'll see all the ones that are red are shut off, all the ones that are green are turned on. If I drill into this Collaborate project here, you'll actually see each and every component starting and stopping on the server, which is way too much info. So I can filter it down to only when the E1 component ran. So you'll see I ran it here a little bit ago, and you can see how long it took each component to run. So it took 1 second flat to call JD Edwards, and then it did some stuff, and then it went back and updated SharePoint. Along the way, if I want to see the results, what happened from JD Edwards, I can double-click this little paperclip over here. It kind of zooms in on some information and shows me what came back from JDE. So this was my raw response from JDE, which has, say, what we were after, which was, in this case, we were after the next address book number, and of course any errors or warnings that might have happened. Like if it was a duplicate, it would have told me things like that that might have been important to know if I wanted to bring that back and present it to the user in SharePoint. So this was basically the result of my mappings in addition to what JDE responded with. So you can see it's basically XML in and out both ways. So it's very standard, very common technology to work with. Nothing too complicated. You know, no line-by-line coding. It's literally just map in some values into some XML. Let me go ahead and at this point, because there's only a couple minutes left, see if there's any questions. So maybe, Glenn, if anybody has any questions, you guys can put them in the chat, and Glenn can read them and see what we got.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Go ahead and leave your screen up there so in case any of the questions relate to what you have to show.
Sure.
And we would ask you all just to enter your questions into the chat box and send them to the organizers and panelists, and we'll take a look at that and try to answer those questions for you. So we'll give you just a moment to enter those. Here's one. How do you validate your user rights?
Oh, sure. So all of our components use the correct APIs to log into whichever system we're using. So when we're logging into JDE, we're actually going in and we're creating a resource that consists of a server, an environment, and a user and a password. These are JDE credentials that are validated against the server. And what happens is it will basically log into JDE through the API, and the API enforces the credentials. Whatever this user has credentials to do, that's all I can do. He can't go and do anything outside of that, because I'm asking JDE to do it for me and passing it this information. So it's basically using its own security model instead of anything outside.
Okay, great. Thank you. What versions of JD Edwards are supported?
Well, we actually have a lot of different components for JDE. I think the earliest with E1 is 8.10 all the way up through the newest version. We'll have support for, of course, 9.2. And then everything in between. And then we also do have components for JDE World, which could go all the way back to version 7 or so, and all the way up to of course all the way up to World 9. And then we also do have support for JDE XE as well.
Okay, great, thanks. And what sort of training is available?
Sure. We actually have a course on this that can make you a Magic XPI developer. It's 3 days long, plus maybe one more additional day if you want to learn the JD Edwards component. And we can do that available either over a webinar, we can do it on site in your office, or you can actually come to our brand new training facility here in Southern California, and that we just opened up in the last week, and be one of the first classes to learn Magic XPI in our new facility.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so it looks like we've answered the questions. I thank you very much, Ryan, for your presentation, and thanks to all of you for attending. We'll see you all on the next Magic webinar.